Meeting of the Board of Trustees. I am Maria Haug, Board President. I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Lisa Pelosi, Julio Olguin, Jeannie Kerr, and Forrest Minter. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, Superintendent, Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Academic Human Resource Officer, Ms. Andy Stubbs, our Chief Business Official, Ms. Erica Madrigal, our Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board, and our IT Systems Analyst, Mr. Derek Machado, who is doing all of our recording for us. Also, I'd like to introduce our district and site administrators who are in the audience. Our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Mary Allen. Our St. Helena Primary School Principal, Ms. Rebecca Rocha, welcome. Our St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Ms. Tanya Pearson. Our Robert Louis Stevenson Middle School Principal, Ms. Karen Cox. And our St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Ben Cinto. We're delighted that you're joining us in person or viewing us on Channel 27 or our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on our website at www.sthelena.unified.org. In connection with item A, closed session, the board conducted the superintendent's annual evaluation for the 2020-2021 school year. In connection with item B on closed session, the board received information and provided staff with direction. I'd like everyone to join me in the flag salute and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd now like to bring the public's attention to public comment on board meetings. This is above. At this time, members of the public are entitled to speak on matters that are not on the agenda. You're requested to state your name, address, and keep your comments concise, brief, and limited to 3 minutes. The rest of the instructions are available for the public to read on the screens above. Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight? Moving on to item 7A, presentations. I would like to administer the oath of office to Ms. Macy Alvarez. Macy? So Macy, you'll be coming forward. Macy is our student board representative, and we'll be going to the front of the dais here.
Front and center.
Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of So I would like to welcome Macy, and I would like all of our board members to welcome her as well. We look forward to working with you this upcoming year, Macy. We're really glad that you stepped forward for this important position.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Macy.
So next we have the Up Valley Center's end of the year report. I would like to call on Jenny Ocone and Zach Guzik.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us this evening, and I want to thank the school district for your support and your partnership over a great many years. This evening, I'm Jenny O'Connor. I'm the Executive Director for the Up Valley Family Centers, and Zach Guzik is our Education Program Manager, and we're going to tag team sharing tonight some of the work that we did last year together, and also looking ahead to this year. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Zach to start.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zach Guzik. I'm our education manager. So I'm going to try and run through these briefly for everyone because I know it's a long night. So last year was a difficult year, not a typical year for us. So we found ourselves making a lot of pivots. But one thing that we did still maintain was the therapy services in partnership with the district. So we had 5 therapists here that provided 1,725 hours of therapy services to students and 50 hours of therapy services to staff last year. So thank you for that partnership. I think it's very important, and I think all of your school staff agree, and it's just a great service that you provide. So we're really happy to be a part of that. Our Claro and Clara youth mentoring groups, we shifted entirely online and found a way to meet with kids after school, during breaks from Zoom classes. And we maintained a steady roster of 30 students throughout the year at both RLS and St. Helena High School. And what we were able to do as well is bring in parent nights where we would host Zoom meetings for parents, and we would talk about trends that we're seeing with students. So mental health issues, drugs and alcohol, healthy relationships, all of those types of things that parents found themselves trying to figure out as new teachers at home through all of last year. Our online tutoring program, normally we would push into classrooms at the primary and the elementary school. We had to shift that work online as well. So we were able to connect 20 students, TK through 5, with tutors who met during the school day, after school, via Zoom. And we were very excited that that partnership was able to continue. We focused a lot on reading and social emotional learning skills. So really just providing another positive adult role model in these kids' lives that they could meet with, go to for help. And in partnership with Tanya and then Tamara, we were able to get some fun games and interact with the kids so that we were able to supplement some of the work that was being done in the classroom. One of the other programs that we run up here is the Youth Diversion Program in partnership with St. Helena Police Department, and we had 22 students last year participate or go through that program. Some of them are still finishing up their contracts this year. What that would look like is students who come into contact with law enforcement for misdemeanor, minor offenses, and they are given the option to participate in diversion rather than go through the court system. So we provide wraparound supports for the student and their family to help kind of redirect and get them back on the right track. Usually that involves community service hours, mental health services, drug and alcohol treatment programs, positive parenting program, those types of supports. One thing that we were super excited about last year is our student assistance program, which was a new program that we received a grant through the county to provide, and that allowed us to provide some case management support for students and families more direct in each of the school districts we're in. And so we had 18 families directly referred through St. Helena Unified, and then another 21 families referred through public health for COVID-19 related reasons. And we were able to provide financial assistance, case management support, resource and referral, and a lot of direct, intensive case management work with each of those families. So we're looking forward to continuing that. We're doing that again this year, but we were able to pilot this in the middle of COVID, and it is just another great resource that we have available. Triple P, our positive parenting program, was another one that became interesting in light of COVID when you can't meet in person with parents, but we did host Zoom meetings, as you can see from one of the pictures there, with parents, and we would bring in different topics and invite the parents to come and participate in those, and they were pretty widely received. We would deal with topics around bedtime routines, dealing with disobedience, managing fighting and aggression for parents of kids 0 to 12 was our primary audience for that last year. And then this summer, we were really excited that Mary Ellen approached us, and we were able to partner with the district on the second step curriculum with the summer school program at the elementary school and at RLS. And so the kids really enjoyed having us there. Our staff really loved working with the kids, so much so that this coming year we'll actually be hosting some Claro and Clara groups at the elementary school on a bi-monthly basis, or bi-weekly basis, and we're very excited for that. I will get to some of what we're looking forward to this year after Jenny jumps in with the rest of our community-based stuff.
Yes, so we, in addition to all of the school-based services, and we are located now on the campus of the elementary school. We have an office there. In addition to having some on-site services at the high school, in the community-based services, for those that may not know, our office is located on Spring Street, and we run a lot of programs for families and people of all ages through that office. One of them is our Niños Activos Playgroup program, and that is for little ones who are not yet school-aged, may not be in preschool, and it's an opportunity for families to come twice a week. It's free, and it's a interactive socialization opportunity, early learning, early literacy, and it's bilingual. This past year, because of COVID, we again had to shift gears. We did not hold those groups in person. We did a lot of take-home activity kits, and then virtual online Zoom sessions or Facebook Live, and we partnered with the Community Resources for Children to do these live interactive opportunities where kids had an opportunity to do craft, watch it, like read a story, and it was very well received, and something that also gave the parents something to do with their kids, so much home time. So we did that quite a bit over the past year. We served 119 children through that program, and we are we'll talk a little bit more what we're doing now, but we've also been partnering closely with the St. Helena Farmers Market and providing some market match tokens to families to incentivize going to the farmers market, and then we also have a bilingual story time that we've been doing there. We also have partnered with the CHP on car seat safety inspections, and also giving out some free car seats to families if they needed it. They didn't have something that was up to date. Our holiday assistance program was a big event last year. We served around 200 St. Helena families and over 400 families up Valley. And they were drive-through events, so providing food and also toys for the kids. And we did that also thanks in partnership with the district, and specifically RLS families and students contributed gift cards in support of that effort. We, as everyone knows, experienced wildfires this past year and COVID on top of it. The Up Valley Family Centers was an essential Up Valley hub for families that did not have access to any kind of safety net resources. So what that meant was that if people lost work because of COVID and they didn't have access to unemployment insurance and they didn't have access to the federal stimulus funds, they were able to get emergency rental assistance from us, in some cases 2 and 3 months worth of assistance. So we feel very proud of the work that we've been able to do to help keep people and their financial stress a little bit lower, although it's still challenging. We helped 477 Up Valley families and distributed over $1 million in emergency rental assistance over the last year. We also assisted families who were impacted by the wildfires, whether that meant that their employment was impacted and they had to stop working because of evacuations or because they couldn't be in certain conditions, or because they lost property. And we assisted 204 households and distributed over $600,000. And I'll talk a little bit more about those two efforts and what we're doing in the coming year in a bit. We also have an immigration services program, and we assist people to apply for citizenship, to apply for DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, as well as help people with green card renewals and just do basic consultations to help people understand immigration remedies that they may be able to have access to. So we have, we do that both over the phone and now in person again. When changes to DACA happened and students were able to begin to apply if they didn't, not just students but also adults who qualified for DACA, for a long time there were no new applications allowed, and there was a ruling to say that new applications could be allowed. We started getting a lot of inquiries from people. So prior to that, only renewals could be processed if somebody was already a DACA recipient. Now there's a court injunction against that, so the new cases are not happening. So it's kind of back and forth. It creates some confusion for people about what is actually happening and what they can access. So again, we're a resource and can help people understand the situation and know what to do in their situation. And then the last thing is we provide free tax preparation services. And last year, despite COVID, we did help over 600 households with that effort and help people access the credits that were available. And many of them are getting those credits even now on a monthly basis because of the program that was put into place for that.
All right, I'm back, and I realized that in my zeal to get through all of the numbers that I was throwing out to you, I probably didn't explain all the programs very well. So as I go through what we're doing this year, I'll give you a brief overview of those as well. So as Jenny said, we're on campus now. We have an office at the elementary school. I think it's room 12, which is right at the front near the coffee shop side of the street. And we also have an office here at Vintage Hall downstairs where we're able to see kids one-on-one, and then we're probably going to run our Clara groups at the elementary school out of that room as well when we meet with them. I mentioned we are doing Clara groups now at the elementary school. So this Claro and Clara program, our youth mentoring program, it's a prevention and early intervention program that focuses primarily on helping students identify early signs of mental health distress and how do we ask for help, where do we go when we need it, how do we have healthy communication, healthy relationships with parents, with peers, with teachers. We focus a lot on college prep and readiness with our older kids, helping them advocate for help with homework, with grades when they're working with their teachers. Really anything that the kids need, we try and provide that for them in these groups. We're back on campus doing those in person right now, so we run those groups during the lunch hour. In a typical year, we would see between 60 to 80 kids a year at those lunchtime groups, so we're hoping that we will at least hit that this year, if not more. There's a lot of need right now around mental health. A lot of kids are dealing with a lot. The world is a crazy place to live in, and we're already in fire season in August. And so our staff are here, and we're on campus for anything that comes up with those kids, and we're here to provide a safe space for them and just an extra resource. So we're happy to be here. Our student assistance program, case management services, will still be going. We have a full-time, brand new dedicated case manager who will be on site at the St. Helena Elementary School office once a week, and then at our Spring Street office the remainder of the time, who can take walk-in appointments for students. Parents, we obviously are not meeting on campus yet, so they can come to our Spring Street office, but really we're here to provide wraparound services for kids and their families. So whatever they might need, we have that extra level of support here. Our tutoring supports are still planning to go. We can't have volunteers on campus, so we're going to find a way to do this virtually. What that'll probably look like is after school hours, maybe after time spent at the Boys and Girls Club. A lot of our kids already go to after class programs, so we're trying to figure out when the best time to see students are, but we are working actively with the principals to figure out a way to bring these supports in a way that makes sense and doesn't disrupt the school day. With the hope that once things go back to normal and we're allowed back on campus, the tutors will be coming back and pushing in and kind of building those relationships again with those students, which are really important. And then the therapy services are continuing again this year, and I'm just very grateful again that you guys are offering that. I think it's a very important thing that these kids get that help, and thank you for that partnership. We really appreciate it.
Okay, and just a few more points about looking ahead and just some resources that I want to make sure everyone is aware that we have available. So there's a program at the state level, some may have heard about it, called Housing is Key. It's emergency rental assistance. It's a program that's available to help both tenants and landlords with the back rent as far back as March of 2020. And it's a really good program that has a lot of resources to it, but there hasn't been a lot of uptake in Napa County for it. So our case managers are assisting people with that process if they have questions. There's a flyer that everybody has with eligibility guidelines on there. Anyone can go in and go onto the portal themselves and apply. If somebody is intimidated by that process, also if they may not have an email address, they can get help through our office because you do need an email address to get onto the portal. It's a partnership that we have also with Fair Housing Napa Valley, Bay Area Legal Aid, On the Move, to make sure that everybody in the county has access to this program. We want it's an important resource, and I know that people may have questions or feel like they don't qualify. In particular, maybe their income only dipped for a couple months, and so they feel like overall that just looking at the income they might not qualify. But even if it dipped in a couple months and they couldn't pay rent those couple months, they could qualify for the program. So if you do know of anyone who needs assistance in that way, we would love to help them and share more about it. The other thing is that in some cases people may be in a housing situation where their name isn't on the lease, and this program may not be the right program for them, but the Up Valley Family Centers has resources to help people in those situations as well. We continue to do a lot of COVID vaccine outreach and education and partnering to help people get to, get a vaccine if they want that. And so continue to do a lot of work there. And then we are likely going to be, it's not official yet, but it's very close to coming into play a program with City of St. Helena for utility assistance. So if people have back bills for any utilities, they should come see us as well. In terms of the fire recovery, we are now running a long-term disaster case management program for fire survivors who have lost property and are wanting to rebuild, or if they can't rebuild, looking to locate. And it's designed for people who have not been able to fully recover. And it's a systematic process that we have a partnership with Catholic Charities, and FEMA supports this work. And so we have 3 dedicated case managers who are assisting for victims of the LNU fire or the glass fire. So if people are in need of that or interested in learning more, there's also a flyer that was distributed about that service. And then we'll continue to be offering our PPP program, positive parenting. Individual consultations are available if people are looking for that, or also we'll be doing some of the online and potentially in-person sessions this year. A couple more points. Our Up Valley Partnership for Youth is collaborative. We've partnered a lot with the school district here, also with the city and law enforcement. It's a youth substance abuse prevention program focused on reducing youth use of marijuana, alcohol, and other drugs. And that continues, and there will be events happening throughout the year designed to address that issue. And I know that many within the school district have been involved in that effort as well, and supporting that work. And then finally is just another reminder that we have immigration services available, and there's a flyer about those as well. So we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Did you have more?
I have one more thing that Mary reminded me of as well. As part of our student assistance program, we do have monies available for respite care for families with children with disabilities. And so if you know of any families that are in need of some respite, this would be short-term respite care. Please send them our way. We'll work with our county partners as well to, if they qualify for regional services, help them access and draw those down so that they can get more ongoing care. But we do have the ability to provide some immediate relief financially for respite care as well. Now, any questions?
Okay. Is there any public comment on this presentation? Board members, comments or questions?
More just a comment, because every time you guys come to present to us, I will say that it can't help but like elevate your spirits. And I just feel like the Up Valley Family Center is just the epitome of community matters. I mean, this just is amazing, the amount of supports that are available to students and families. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, it's amazing. And what you managed to do, all your pivots have been, they worked, and you pivoted well. So thank you for that. And I guess my only other question is, are you in need of volunteers for tutoring and things like that? Are you still looking at it for those that are, for our multiple viewers that we have tonight out there that might want to know if you need volunteers?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always recruiting for volunteers.
Okay.
So if you are interested in volunteering with our tutoring program, please send me an email. My email's on the screen and in the presentation. And we'd be happy to try and connect you with a student once we have
Okay.
a roster of students that are looking to get connected. But
Okay.
please, any type of volunteers, if it's tutoring or just, you would like to give back and help the community, we have events throughout the year where we're looking for extra hands, especially around the holiday time. So
Okay,
please reach out to us if you're interested.
great, thank you.
I just want to echo Trustee Pelosi's thoughts. Thank you so very much for everything. Kind of what she was saying, like each time that you come here each year, you come with a different program and different ways of helping. And we, as a school district, could not be more appreciative. So thank you very much. Thank you.
I just also want to say thank you, and I want to point out, I'm really happy that you're on SHES campus now as well. So that's a really good development. I'm now, is it one of the larger rooms on the corner there? Oh, so that's with windows. So better than the office at RLS.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to move on to item 8A. The St. Helena Teachers Association, Mr. Brandon Farrell. Brandon, do you have anything you'd like to say to the board tonight? Yes, please.
Started walking up here and thinking you were going to kick me back. Mr. Heller is going to. Welcome back to another school year. So we have lots of changes. I think no more than I can say for myself. I have the glorious purpose of getting my two oldest daughters up and myself for 0 period, and I'm happy to say I'm 6 for 6 so far on doing that. Thanks to Mr. Cinto for scheduling all 3 ferals at 7:25 in the morning. So there has been a lot of changes. We have new staff members. We have some people changing roles. It's been a good start to the school year. We have a number of great things going on. We have a new learning system at the high school that we're kind of managing a little bit. We have a new principal at the primary school that everybody's having a great time with. We have great principal leadership all over the place, and we got had many conversations over the summer with the district office about COVID protocols and things that were changing and updating and things of that nature. So actually, to start a school year off like this is kind of refreshing. I mean, even with masks, and nobody really enjoys to wear a mask all the time inside, but I will say that I'm proud of all of our teachers and students and staff that we generally follow the rules pretty well, and are having good success with it. So, what issues come up, I think, remain to be seen. We have our conversations, Mr. Heller and I's conversations over the summer, last summer, were much different than this summer. We didn't have as many concrete guidelines to follow this summer as we did last year. Would you agree? I mean, Last year it was like, if this happens, you do this. If that happens, you do this. And this year it was kind of like, okay, wear your mask and have school. And that doesn't settle well with everybody on our staff. And they certainly have, varying different levels of concerns still. There are things that are sunsetting at the end of September that are making our staff a little bit nervous about leave and what happens if their little ones get taken, to be sent home for 10 days or so, because obviously the little ones are not vaccinated yet. So there are lingering issues, but for the most part, we're handling them as they come to us, and it's been a good start to the school year. It's nice to see the kids excited about being social and excited about gathering in different groups. I know my little one is excited that she can play with other classes other than just her little pod. So there are a lot of more positives than issues right now at our schools. So all I can say is, I'm happy with where we're at. We have a lot of challenges ahead. I think that'll be a little bit more unforeseen than they were a little bit last year, if you can imagine that. But mainly it's because we're trying to move past this thing, and there's that little gap of time where we're not past it yet, but yet we need to kind of move school into the realm of having school full time with this virus hanging around. So that's really all my report is about today.
And the CSEA report is written, I'd like to remind everyone. And then we're moving on to item 8C. Dr. Mary Lou Wilson will give her superintendent's report.
Thank you. And board members, welcome back. Welcome to the 21-22 school year. I know that you had a great time away, and I know you're ready to move forward and continue to serve our district. School did reopen on Wednesday of last week, and it was an exciting day for all of us. I was able to visit each school site and see a number of our students and our employees. And as Mr. Farrell said, it was a great first day, and we are moving forward with that full day instruction, which we are all very excited about. There are some COVID protocols that we are continuing to follow. And Erica, if you could jump onto the district website, on the main website and then on all of the school sites, there is a global icon called COVID-19 Hub. And that's replacing the COVID page from last year with updated information around the public health guidance, Napa County dashboard, just different aspects of what we are doing in order to continue to create a safe environment for all of our employees and our students. Thank you, Erica. Also, we do have back to school nights scheduled. The RLS will start us off on the 24th of August. Primary school will take us to the 25th. The high school will be on the 26th, and on September 1st, the elementary school will complete our back-to-school night rotation for this year. We are very pleased to continue to partner with the St. Helena Hospital Foundation as they are offering vaccine clinics on all of the nights that they were available. And so 3 of those nights, there will be a vaccine clinic for anyone in the community that is 12 or older. It does not have to be a back-to-school parent. They are at the school sites. The locations are on the district website. And again, I continue to encourage anyone who can be vaccinated, please consider being vaccinated and use those 3 nights if it works for you. I believe that is the entirety of my report for this evening. Continue with this great meeting.
Okay, we're moving on to item 9, which is the consent agenda. It contains routine items judged to be appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on the consent agenda? Do trustees have any questions or wish to have anything pulled on the consent agenda? No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Moving on to item 10A, we have the Napa Valley Bicycle Coalition Safe Routes to School presentation. And I would like to call on Dr. Wilson, and there'll be a presentation by
Yes, I will move very quickly on this, only to introduce Patrick Band, who will be providing you with some updates on the work he and his coalition have been doing for the last number of years. Patrick?
Thank you very much. Patrick Band, Executive Director, Napa County Bicycle Coalition. A little bit about our organization before I dive into the presentation. The Bike Coalition has been around since 2008, and our mission is to make riding a bicycle anywhere in Napa County safe, convenient, and accessible for all ages and abilities. Although it's not in our mission, we also focus significantly on pedestrian safety, particularly when it comes to our Safe Routes to Schools program. Safe Routes to Schools in Napa County is a partnership between the Bicycle Coalition, the Napa Valley Transportation Authority, and the County Office of Education. Next slide. Or, I can do that there. Perfect. For the last 4 years, we've done a comprehensive Safe Routes program in Napa County that includes education to teach kids in elementary and middle schools how to walk and bike safely, follow the rules of the road, as well as engagement programs to engage kids around the benefits of walking and biking, encouragement programs such as our Walk and Roll to School Day, Walk and Roll Wednesdays, as well as evaluation that the Bicycle Coalition has been leading for the last 3 years, looking at what are the barriers that are keeping kids from walking and biking to school at every single one of our public schools countywide. So as I mentioned earlier, the program is a partnership. We have current funding from the state of California through the Active Transportation Program and OBAG, which are actually ending at the end of this year. For other counties in the Bay Area, they do have locally supported programs, generally through a dedicated sales tax. For Napa County, that would be something like Measure T. We're certainly looking at what are the opportunities to continue this program in the future, but our goal tonight is to share information about the evaluation component of our program, which we'll get into right now. So as part of that evaluation program, we contracted with EMC Research, a public opinion research firm out of Oakland, California, to look at what are parent perceptions around walking and biking in Napa County. How are parents making the decision on whether or when to let their kids walk or bike to school? In both English and Spanish, we surveyed 459 parents of K-8 students throughout Napa County, as well as conducted qualitative focus groups and one-on-one interviews in both English and Spanish as follow-up to get more in-depth and detailed questions answered about how parents are thinking about walking and biking and safety concerns. The survey methodology was really engaged to targeted to get as many responses as possible. So unfortunately, we weren't able to conduct a real random sample. But based on what we've seen, the data that we collected is fairly representative from other counties in the Bay Area. Just a little bit of background. Right now, today, more than 60% of vehicle trips countywide are 5 miles or less. That's considered a distance that's fairly easily bikeable by most people. And 32% of our trips are actually 31% are less than 2 miles, which is generally considered a somewhat walkable distance. So again, roughly 2/3 of trips countywide can be either walked or biked. And yet 88% of trips right now are done by personal vehicle, and roughly 4% by bike and 0.8% walking. So pretty small numbers overall. What we found in the research is that roughly 25% of parents said that their kids are currently walking or biking to school, but nearly all parents want their kids to be able to walk or bike safely. Safety is the #1 concern for parents, and there are clear improvements that we can make both in the built environment, the infrastructure side, as well as programs to encourage more kids to walk and bike safely and give parents the comfort and confidence to let their kids walk and bike. So again, roughly 23% right now are walking or biking, and roughly 77% are either cars, public transit, carpools, things of that sort. Distance is the number one factor when we look at whether kids are walking or biking to school. Less than a mile, roughly 50-50. But as we get out to 2 miles or 2 to 5 miles, it drops down to 12%. So that's a significant barrier, which makes sense. But when we ask parents, would they like their kids to walk or bike, 93% agree that walking or biking to school is a good way for their kids to get physical exercise. 88% say they'd like their kids to be able to walk or bike. And 88% also agree that their kids like walking and biking places. As I mentioned earlier, safety is the overriding concern. 96% of parents say that they are concerned about speeding and distracted drivers when their kids are walking or biking, whether it's to school or other locations. And when asked, is it safe for your kids to walk or bike, roughly 60% of parents say, yeah, it's pretty safe. So there's definitely a disconnect between is it safe versus there's still that underlying concern about distracted drivers or speeding, and those certainly can be exacerbated during the commute hours. Countywide, we have both a bicycle and a pedestrian plan, as well as adopted by our local cities that seek to reduce what we call the level of traffic stress. Basically, how comfortable or how uncomfortable is it to walk or bike on a local street. So when you think about the highest traffic stress, it's riding a bike down Highway 29 during rush hour traffic. Not fun at all. When we think about the most comfortable, we think about riding a bike on the Vine Trail, a separated 10-foot wide pathway that doesn't have any cars anywhere. And so our goal is to get towards that level of traffic stress 1, where it's the most comfortable and most confident for bikers and walkers of all ages and abilities. When asking about, okay, so we know that most parents want their kids to walk or bike, roughly 80%, how do we get them to that point? And so we said, okay, what is your level of comfort with walking to school with an adult versus without an adult, or biking to school with or without? And obviously, when we think about the programs we can implement, what we consider walking school buses or bike trains, where you have a parent, whether it's a local parent or a volunteer, coming in and leading those kids to their destination, can be a significant benefit to getting more kids walking and biking. We also ask parents specific improvements. What can we do to get more kids walking and biking today? Crossing guards, increasing the visibility and safety of crosswalks were the top 2 factors. So 94% of parents said, yes, we want more crossing guards. We want to see the crosswalks that do exist be a little bit safer. We want to slow down those cars at those intersections. And then we also get into some infrastructure things like separated pathways, which we just talked about, fixing missing or broken sidewalks, which we know is an issue in every community, and then also reducing the speed of traffic on streets that kids are using, those kind of primary routes to get to and from school. We'll gladly share the full top lines and the crosstabs of all this research with the board, and we want you to kind of dive in and think about this as we're making decisions about how are we getting kids around our local schools. So really the next steps are pretty straightforward. We want to get more kids out there walking and biking. We know that parents want to do that, but that safety is a significant concern. We looked at the data, and about 54% of kids live less than 2 miles from school. 83% live less than 5 miles away. So that 23% number right now that are walking or biking could be doubled if we're addressing the concerns that parents are sharing with us. And as a side note, we're also realizing that as we're becoming more aware and more concerned about things like climate change and vehicle miles traveled, that reducing that vehicle trips that are taken can reduce congestion around schools, which can make it safer, but also reduce CO2 emissions and make our air a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to stop after this one last slide, which is what are our next steps? So we want to deepen the engagement with the community. One of the things we heard from parents was they want to have this conversation. This is the first time they've been asked, how do your kids get to school? How do you want your kids to get to school? And then, as I mentioned on the first slide, figuring out a way to pay for both the infrastructure, the built environment, the concrete and asphalt, as well as the programs that will allow kids to feel confident walking and biking. So you, again, have all this information, so I'm not going to go into the detail. And now I will wrap up. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know there's a lot of information very quickly.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Please. And if you could just state your name, please.
And thank you, Patrick. Sophia Tsalamigris. Do you want me to spell it? Thank you, Patrick, because he actually articulated a few of the points that I wanted to bring up today, and he did it much better than I could, much more succinctly. So what I wanted to come here and tell you all about is something that I've been working on for the last couple of years. I formerly lived on the hillsides over here and decided to move into town and give my kids the experience of being able to walk and ride their bikes to school, and moved into one of the neighborhoods just around the corner here, and noticed that many of the parents were still driving their kids to school. And when talking to the parents and starting to discover the reason why was that we have a couple superhighways right here in St. Helena known as Spring Street and Madrona, where there aren't any crosswalks readily available to most of the kids to be able to get to school in a safe manner where parents are going to feel comfortable putting their kids on a bike or walking to school. So after speaking with some of the principals here in our school district and talking to some of the parents, I went to the city council to ask for support in adding crosswalks and looking at the situation as a whole, but really to address those two streets in particularly. And I'm happy to report that we have moved this forward, and the city council has hired on an engineering firm, which took a group of about a dozen of us parents on a walking tour so we can show them the areas that we were concerned with, and have now started to scope out the work for the city to move this plan forward to actually get more crosswalks that are logically put in place to create those safe routes to school for all of our kids in town, and hopefully be able to provide a more comfortable environment for everybody in our community. So when we surpassed that first hurdle, I reached out to Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, and she was nice enough to entertain me for a bit and help me see what next steps that we can do together in the interim, because with the city council, obviously this project is going to take probably a couple of years to be completed, and then we discussed what are the things that we can do in the interim. So I'm really happy to have seen this year. First off, we have more crossing guards available at the schools. That was one of the things on your list. So that was really encouraging. The other thing has been the flag placements. I don't know if some of you have seen in some of the corners, the orange flag placements are out there. So that's another one that's really great. We also have had the police department came out, and they were much more visible this year during the first days of school to help with traffic and all that, and that was also extremely helpful. So next steps for me is a couple of things where Mary Lou was gracious enough to connect me with the folks at Blue Zone to create partnership with them and see where we can get some help, either possibly from Up Valley or other community centers where we can deploy some of our senior citizens, hopefully maybe to act as crossing guards, so that we can use the resources available to us within our community. The other thing that I hope to be able to get accomplished is to work with I actually spoke to Tanya today about getting into the PTG meetings, first one, so that I can talk to all the parents at. Oh, am I over my
Sorry,
time?
I'm sorry. We do have a
know, it's
time limit, and I understand, but you're welcome to
Yeah.
I just want to remind you of our time limit, and I know you're saying a lot of important things, and the board does want to hear them. Yeah. It's just that one of our smaller meeting venue might be more appropriate in some of these issues. But I'll let you just finish up.
Sure. I just
Okay.
want to finish up those couple of points that we're going to engage with the parent-teacher group as well to help them to get us assistance in writing letters to the city council so that when it does come up for the budget for the final construction, that they will also have the support from the community very visible. And finally, work with the St. Helena Star to see if we can actually start to get some attention around this as well. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much, Patrick, for everything that you're doing, and would love to work with you as well.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for your work, and please stay in touch. Okay. And is there any further public comment on this agenda item? Board members, comments, questions?
Can we comment to what she said? Yeah. I was also going to just suggest how can other parents get involved in terms of the bike routes? I know that Madrone and I think you said Spring are kind of the major ones in that area, but also to involving other families, because there's families on the east side of Main Street, so that area that's the Main Street is kind of a treacherous. As a parent looking at it, to get kids across the Main Street is kind of one of the worrisome areas. So I think that side of town also involving those parents as well would be beneficial.
Thank you, Julio. And then I'll let you address that, Patrick, if you can.
Yeah,
please.
And I'll be very brief.
Yes.
So yes, that's a really good point. Both make sure we're covering east-west sides, but also, what are our next steps and how can we make sure to accelerate that work? So as was mentioned, the city has hired BKF Engineering. They're at the end of their first phase of work, which is looking particularly at Spring and Madrona for bicycle pedestrian safety improvements. And then the next phase of their work is to look citywide at what are some improvements that can be made. That's very parallel to the work that our organization has done, looking at each specific school site and roughly a half-mile radius around those schools for specific barriers for walking and biking. So those two efforts will go kind of hand in hand, hopefully to develop a new list of projects that both the city and potentially the school district, as appropriate, can pursue into the future. And I think that goes to the next item on the agenda, so I'll stop it right there.
Are there any other public board comments?
I had one more. One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Out of that survey, you said 459 parents in the Napa County. Can you let us, or do you know the percent of parents in St. Helena?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I believe it was in the single digits as a percentage, but I can certainly get that information and send it as part of the crosstabs and full packet.
I think my only comments is thank you. I think this is great. I too think that this is this needs to be just publicized a little bit more. I think there's more marketing that needs to go to the parent community about it. And I realize, the survey was what it was, but as long with the public comment that was made, I think linking this presentation through your parent groups, the school side, I think that's just one way to get the awareness out there, get the education out there where they can look for information, for maybe neighbors to start thinking about walking groups. My kids benefited from that in our neighborhood. One parent was kind enough to take their helm and walked 12 kids to school. So it can be possible, and sometimes people just might need the reminder, and I think that this might, if this presentation can get in front of more eyes, you might be able to do that. So that's one comment, but thank you.
And mine is, thank you very much. I commend both of you for the work that's been doing, all the kind of the getting information, and then Sophie for going out there and talking with people within our community. And I think you're right that if we just start talking about it, more people will become more involved in this. Because I know it's something that our district our community has talked about for many, many, many years, as far as safety of our walkers and our bikers, especially our youngest ones. So anything that you can do is awesome. If you need any help from us in any way, or me specifically, it's something that is very important to me as well. And I thank you. And it's and like Trustee Pelosi says, the more information that we can get out to families, I think you'll be able to really get somewhere with this. I really do. I'm really excited. I'm very excited.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank
and certainly
you.
that
Thank
parent
you for
outreach
being here
is,
this evening.
the next step. We wanted to get the research, understand what the concerns were,
Yeah.
broadly speaking, across the county, and then be able to dive into those local communities and really understand, okay, how can we move the needle? So thank you very much.
And I do have a comment actually as well, and this is beyond the scope of what you're doing right now, but just maybe food for thought. You might want to look at just, I'm speaking on my own history here in the Valley. You might want to look at the school bus routes and see how many families need a bike rack at the bus stop that might be a mile from their house, that they drive to the bus stop and that sort of thing. It's also, it might increase the bus ridership. It might, sometimes, if you're already in the car driving to the bus stop, you might as well just drive to town. But if you knew that there was a place that the bike could be locked, that would also be, you could speak to property owners where the bus stops are, and it's just an idea to consider.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And to broaden it a little bit, I think that, it's those little barriers that keep people from walking or biking, whether it's there isn't a bike rack, or there's that one little street or that one missing sidewalk that makes a parent concerned about letting their younger child walk. So looking at comprehensively what can we do both within the city limits but also countywide to address those barriers as efficiently as possible. Thank you.
And-
Forrest?
Yeah, sorry. I was going off of Maria's point. I was wondering if you've also considered the public bus system, not just the school bus system, as a way to kind of reduce the travel time and travel distance for people who want to walk or bike.
We have, and that's having NVTA, the Napa Valley Transportation Authority, as a partner on this project has been really helpful to look at that. And that's, again, one of those next steps that contingent upon additional grant funding that we're going to certainly pursue. Thank you.
I'm sure you've already done this, but I think also working with the city just to promote that we're doing this as a community, just because I know our community members will know that, or you see the kids riding and biking and doing all that, but just there's a lot of people that drive through here and they find those, what you call them, the highway streets where they drive fast. So just knowing that there's signage and that we are promoting this as a community, I think that'll be helpful as well, just for people that drive through here.
Thank you.
President
Last
Howell.
question, sorry if I may. Oh, sorry, Dr. Wilson. Does the Napa County Bicycle Coalition have a social media presence?
We do.
Okay, Instagram and Facebook?
Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
President Halleck, I was just going to ask Macy, as a student who's attended all of our schools for the last number of years, any reflection or thoughts about walking or biking to school?
So I actually don't live in town. I live in Rutherford, so I never got the opportunity, but I know that when I was in elementary school, primary school, I always wanted to bike. It was always an exciting idea to me. So, but my mom would have also been fearful of me and my sister riding around town. So I really do think that it's a good idea to push through with this and make it safe, because I think for kids and parents alike, it would be very beneficial.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then we're moving on to item 10B, and I'd like to call on Ms. Zandy Stubbs.
Thank you. Okay. And so I'm happy to report that we have already been able to take some actions towards supporting the Safe Routes to School initiative. For example, we have been able to add crossing guards and do some repainting of curbs, installing some signage, addressing bike racks, and beginning to plan for some programming. And the next few slides will provide a little bit of additional detail on some of those items. So with regard to crossing guards, we are currently staffing them with our own employees temporarily. We provided them all with training on August 10th this summer, and you can see them. They just graduated from their training program there in the picture. We are working on a new job description for crossing guards, which we will bring to the board for review at a future date, and we will include the costs associated with maintaining a crossing guard program in the 2021-22 first interim report. And we are looking at 4 locations for crossing guards. After discussing with the principals and getting feedback from others, we determined at the primary school that the intersection at Grayson Avenue and South Crane Avenue would be appropriate for a crossing guard. And this is both before and after school. And then at the elementary school, we really have 2 spots where a crossing guard is needed. Oak Avenue and Adams, and then Kearney Street and Adams, which is right in front of the entrance, the main entrance to the school there. At RLS, the primary place where we need a crossing guard is at Hillview Place, right in front of the school. And so those would be the 4 locations. And we did have the opportunity to really take a deep dive into the recommendations that are included in the report from the Napa County Bicycle Coalition. And so while the recommendations within the report are not legally binding, of course, we have an interest in collaborating with our partners and doing what we can to support the initiative. And for a school district, it is appropriate for us to assume the liability and the responsibility of doing crossing guards right next to the school or in the blocks immediately adjacent. And so here you see some of the language from the recommendations. We went through and identified the things that we could address relatively quickly over the summer. So we have done some repainting of some curbs as recommended. We installed some signage, and we've done quite a bit to reposition some of our bike racks to make them more accessible. That required some altering, and our maintenance crew was great over the summer. They made those alterations to the bike racks. They painted them yellow for greater visibility, and we have installed additional bike racks too in a couple of locations. And then really what we've begun to talk about here, I think the theme running through these presentations and our public comment is this idea of collaboration. This work is really going to take a group effort. And especially with regard to programming, some of the education and encouragement enrichment opportunities that Mr. Band was describing. And so here's where we would really need to work with our local partners to see if we could, as he said, kind of move the needle. And so in looking at some of the recommendations, they involve providing annual bike safety education, identifying some opportunities to engage student leadership to encourage more biking and walking to school, developing a circulation policy for the site so that students and parents know where those safe routes are. And as you can see under the status column, these would be long-term efforts, and we would want to work closely with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition to obtain some funding and support to make those things happen in conjunction with our school site leaders. And then these are a few more that are similar, the idea of having pedestrian safety education, bike rodeo, promoting the use of parking lot and drop-off lanes to reduce traffic, and developing those teams of parent champions. So the programming piece is not something that we'll be able to easily attend to overnight, but I think if we do work together, and collaboration again here is key, we will be able to start to see some positive change, I think, in this area. And so what we're doing, for example, is paying close attention to the agendas for the city council meetings, the St. Helena Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee, the Active Transportation Committee, so that we can be aware when they're having conversations about some of the work that was described that's happening at the city level. We want to collaborate with the folks from Blue Zone to see if there's a way that we can support each other in expanding the crossing guard program utilizing volunteers. And then certainly working with the Bicycle Coalition on some of that, the deeper programming work that's recommended. So with that, I would ask if the board had any questions.
First, I'd like to turn this over to public comment. Please limit your public comment to 3 minutes and state your name. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions and comments?
My only comment is, I really think that, thank you for your thoughtful reply as far as kind of our moving forward with this. It is kind of a daunting task just because it's something that we've been talked about, it's been going on for a while as far as, getting more bicycle riders and things to school. But I think that with collaboration with our partners, I think that it can be done. I really do feel optimistic. So thank you, Andy. Thank you.
I also would like to highlight that this actually, because it is encouraging minimizing automobile use, it falls under our green initiative. And maybe that we could look at the specific sites, since each specific sites can identify green goals. They could maybe look at whether encouraging and participating in this initiative falls under their green initiative report as well, just so that we have another avenue to promote the riding bicycles and walking to school.
I feel like I keep going. Okay, my question is on the crossing guards. First, I know there was great enthusiasm that I heard in the first couple of days of people seeing the crossing guards and thinking like it was just so cool. It was a return to old school. So I think that was a positive improvement that we did. My question was about more crossing guards. Are those volunteers currently?
Currently, we're utilizing our own staff.
Okay.
And really for the purposes of liability and what the district can take on, we really should limit it to those intersections that we've seen in this presentation. And so if there were expanded crossing guards across the city, that would be where it would have to be a broader kind of a volunteer program. And certainly I would represent the district and participate in committee meetings or whatever it took to, to kind of help with that. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions, Dr. Wilson?
No, President Haug, we have some air conditioning issues and we were hoping we could take a 5-minute break.
I was planning on a break at 7:15. So we will be taking a break and returning in 10 minutes to item 10C. So thank you, everyone. I believe everyone's back after the break. Now, I would like to move on to item 10C. That's going to be review and public input regarding the district's COVID-19 prevention program. That's the CPP plan. And I'd like to call on Miss Andy Stubbs.
Thank you. And we are required to have a COVID-19 prevention program plan, which we created last year and posted to the district website. Moving forward, we're required to review and update the plan every 6 months. We just updated our plan based on the new guidelines that was released in July of this year. And we are presenting it to the board for review and public comment this evening. And then also included in the agenda item is a safe return to in-person instruction plan template, which also provides some supplemental information about how we will address learning continuity during quarantine and outbreak or school closure. And then I've also provided an overview document that explains more about the different plans and our safety protocols for the year. And so with that, I would ask if there were any board questions.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Board members, questions or comments?
No, I, as always, appreciate you highlighting the changes in the larger of the two documents attached there, so I appreciate that. And my understanding is that these templates that you're using they were issued by the state, so you're just following the template that they provide, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The one that's entitled the CPP, that the
Right.
template was provided actually from our insurance JPA, North Bay Schools.
Okay.
And so and they have updated their template in alignment with the new California Department of Public Health guidance that was released in July. And then the Safe Return Plan, that is a template that's associated with the COVID funding that we're receiving. And so we have to use this template. If we have the CPP, then we just have to check a couple of boxes on this template, and then we're good to go. We don't have to fill in much of the text. If we didn't have the CPP, then we would have to fill in all the little boxes. And so for the purpose of transparency and clarity for the public, we've gone ahead and filled in all the boxes just to address some of the items that are not really covered in the CPP,
Okay.
which have to do with providing continuity of services for students.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
So, will we continue to have to update this then every 6 months then?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. And do you see anything in the horizon that might be changing soon, or as far as kind of COVID procedures within the classroom?
Well, one thing that we will need to update these sooner, because now we do have the guidance that says that employees in K-12 settings must be vaccinated
Okay.
or tested weekly.
Yep.
And that was released after we updated these, so I will want to jump in and probably update those even sooner than the 6 months.
Right.
So if significant guidance comes out that changes any of our practices, we'll go ahead and revise these, even if it needs to be more frequently than the 6 months.
And then currently, the focus of the guidance from the California Department of Public Health is to keep students in school as much as possible. Where if they have been exposed and they've had their mask on, they may quarantine within the school day. So if something changes with regards to the COVID cases and the counts and direction from public health as far as the type of isolation or quarantine, that could change. So and we continue to monitor COVID compliance and the Napa County Public Health and the state on a regular basis. So it might, and we know how to change. We've done that. We're able to make swift changes to meet the guidance and the regulations.
And I just wanted to highlight, we did hear from Brandon earlier that teachers seemed concerned that there seemed to be a strict protocol before, and now there's a little bit of a different protocol. But it looks like we still have the protocols that are recommended by the state and the county and our insurance. So I want to highlight that these are the protocols that are upon the advice of because we have also, I would like to highlight, we've also had some public concern among parents. The board has received letters from from school families who are concerned with the changes in the safety procedures. And I would like the board to discuss this a little bit, just so that parents and families know that this is not something that we're taking lightly, and that when the guidance comes to change, we will follow the guidance. Is that correct, Dr. Wilson?
Absolutely. And one of the challenges with the title guidance is that people think that it is a suggestion, and it really isn't. It's not recommended, it's required. We are following CDPH guidelines and or rules. We are,
The guidelines that we had before were also set up by the county.
They were set up by the county in conjunction with California Department of Public Health.
Dr. Wilson, were families asked to, what their registration packet this year again, was there a pledge to sign again like we did upon return, like about the home screening, things like that? We asked families to sign something like that. Did they not upon returning to school in November?
We did ask them to actually sign that pledge in November. We we did continue to include the health checker.
Okay.
And the commitment. We did not have them actually sign it this year.
Okay.
And we are asking for families to screen before they send their children to school. And by and large, I do want to applaud our students. They are incredibly compliant. They do follow the rules. The students are wearing their masks when they're supposed to. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So those kinds of things are working for us.
If a teacher in a classroom wanted to reinstall plexiglass on desks, do they have that right to do so?
Absolutely, and in fact, they are either stored in their classroom
Okay.
right now or very close by.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
and as a note, the plexiglass began coming down, Ms. Stubbs, in classrooms as soon as, principals, maybe you can help me, as soon as March of last school year? Is that true?
Yeah, I would say around then, yes.
Great.
So,
Thank you. In case anybody was wondering
Yes.
if that was an option.
And the plexiglass dividers were never a requirement around all of the student desks. That was an additional safety measure that we put into place. There is some controversy about those dividers now around whether or not that is actually causing more harm than good.
So thank you for making that clarification. I want to remind families that we are always abreast of the most recent developments. There's a lot of sometimes conflicting information out there, just like what you said about the plexiglass dividers. Maybe it was thought to be a helpful barrier in the past. Now there is questions. So we are doing everything in conjunction with public health and with our insurance companies. And I know that we wanted public feedback at this meeting, and the board did get written comments from citizens, and I just would like to let every family know that we take this very seriously, and if you're concerned, please write to the board, or please contact your principal, your site principal, and let them go over the protocols that are happening on their site for your students. Wouldn't that be the best place for them to talk to if you're concerned with safety issues for your child? And please read all the information that's contained on the website. Erica, can you show that COVID page again on the district website for all of our parents? So here is the COVID-19 hub, and please utilize this information. It's here for all of our school families. Thank you. On to item 12D, 10D. This is the governing board's annual self-assessment. And I'd like to open the, could all of the board members please open the final evaluation report? And then if you have your, does everyone have their own answers available on their laptop? Okay. So I do need to ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? So trustees, I'd like to focus on the areas where we seem to agree that there is room for improvement, and that would be areas that are blue. So our first one is item 13. Item 13, the board manages internal contacts in a productive manner. So would like to, sorry about that. I do apologize. Does anyone know, so I'd like to see how we can improve there. I see that there are some members who feel that we have not always dealt with internal conflicts productively, and I think that this is an area where we can all work to improve. Does anyone have any comments they would like to make here on this, on question 13?
I don't. I'm not. I mean, I'm happy to discuss it, but maybe I need an example to understand how we can improve in a more productive manner.
Okay.
I think it's a difficult one to address in public, considering the nature of the question.
I understand, but that's our job. And this is the board self-evaluation is a public item. So I think that for that one, we might want to maybe. Do you want to say something, Julio? Yeah.
I would just say in general, I mean, I know how I answered the question, but I would just say more communication or opportunities to air out anything that needs to be aired out. I mean, I personally answered it almost always, so I feel like we handle internal conflict in a productive manner. But again, I think opportunities for board members to express themselves or get more opportunities to do that would be.
I think that maybe this one way of looking at this question is a comparative. In a comparative manner, because I feel that we're doing better than we have done historically.
I think Dr. Wilson would like to say something.
I would just like to remind the board members that our school district uses positive behavior intervention supports, PBIS, as our tenets for how we expect not only our students, our employees to behave as well, be safe, be responsible, and be respectful. And then when there are concerns or conflicts, that you attempt to resolve those at the lowest level possible. So if two board members have a conflict, that they would have that conversation with just the two of you, because you can't really have it with more than the two of you.
Right.
So following the tenets of PBIS would be, I think, a super helpful strategy for board members to look at in this particular item.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. The other one that we have a lower rating is that board members all receive the same information. Well, I think that, and I did speak with Dr. Wilson, there's some places where we are not going to receive the same information. If we're on a subcommittee, we're not going to be getting the same information as someone who's not on a subcommittee. And as president, I do get information because I'm on the transition team. I get information before other board members. But someone feels that we really don't get the same information. So maybe we've said this before, information is a two-way street. If you feel that you're not getting enough information, you have to contact one other board member or contact the superintendent. And I think that would be the best way to go forward on that one. There's a good relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and the importance of the item. That's question 30.
I can chime in right here.
Yeah.
So I'm the one that gave it at the end, because I think we said this the last time. I don't think that the question is really that valid, because it doesn't, I mean, we spend time, well, there's things that come our way that we spend a lot of time on that might not be as important as our students, and it's just the
Exactly.
nature of what we do here. You know, I mean.
Exactly.
So
And
that's
you
my
know, no,
thought
and I
process.
agree. I gave a low rating as well. I didn't give the lowest, but I think that we want to be mindful of, sometimes we don't put students first, and we do get bogged down in some other issues that are tangential to the real job of our district. And I think that happened a little bit this past year. We had a lot of issues to deal with, and then there was one issue that really took a lot of the district's time and a lot of our time. And it was not,
But,
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, it was an important issue, you know what I mean? So it doesn't, I don't think that, in my mind, I just don't think that we can compare agenda item with the time that you spent on it, because it's all variable, it's always going to change.
And it doesn't
Depending on
allow, yeah, and it
situations.
doesn't allow for what a trustee may be doing leading up to a board meeting. How many, is there's been a conversation with Dr. Wilson or with Mr. Heller or Ms. Stubbs, I mean, that we might need to get clarification. I think, that depends on how we act individually, what we feel you might need to get extra to either better understand, get questions answered. I may have 5 questions on one topic and nobody has any questions on it. But that's not something that is shared until maybe we get together, right? And nobody's going to know that. I don't inform anybody if I'm meeting with Dr. Wilson to get some questions answered. So I think, again, it doesn't really, it's not a super valid question.
that's fair, that's fair, that's fair. And then if we go down further, other blue numbers, effectively orienting new members. I mean, this was a rough year, and I see that it's a lower rated. It's one of our lowest rated areas, and I think that we can all do better. And I think that we should all. I would like, with the start of the school year, I think every one of us needs to schedule a meeting with you, Forrest, just because it's the start of a new school year. This is kind of the first quasi-normal school year that you've been with us for starting out. So I'd like to encourage all of us to make an appointment to meet with you and work over any subject that you might be working on in a subcommittee or any other issue that is not going to violate the Brown Act.
I would be happy to, too. I'd be happy.
Yeah, and if in the short amount of time, if there's something that you would like to share, what could be more, I mean, now is the time to share it too. I mean, I know that Julio had, recommendations when he was being oriented. So it's the same kind of thing. If you think there's something, this is the place to say it and let us know, like, this should be happening. Because it's a lot, If you come into the position and you haven't been in the schools recently, or you haven't had kids in the school recently, and I can tell you in 2 years, things are already different than from when I was a parent in the school. So it's just, it's asking, and then, and let us know. Let us know what we can do to better support you. because that's the only way we can improve.
Thank you.
So, and then the other areas are 46, 47. The board is represented at key district events. That might be low because of COVID. I'm not sure. Is that why people voted low on that? Okay. And then the board celebrates district accomplishments. That was only one person feel that we're not doing that. Does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, because of COVID. I mean, I don't,
Oh,
we
okay.
just didn't,
Okay.
attend
No, I
anything.
understand.
We didn't
No,
attend
I
very much.
understand. So, yes. And then, again, we have 55, 56, and 57 were all low. So I believe that we have all said in the past that 57 is not really applicable to our district, and we're not expecting our board to advocate for public education at the federal level. And that's basically why that is a lower number. 56 and 55, does anyone have any comments or anything they want to highlight there?
No, I think on 56, about pursuing partnerships, I think the board served to support what the district staff is doing. I think the district staff is the one that deserves the kudos for pursuing, maintaining, community partnerships.
Yeah.
It's not that we're not, we're not willing to support that or do that, but a lot of those relationships are coming from the people that work in this building.
Yeah.
And, the principals and things like that. That's how those relationships start. I mean, we may bring something to the school district, but I think our job is to help support the staff that brings and develops those relationships.
So,
Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but that's the way I interpreted that question.
so does anyone else want to speak to that?
I'm just saying it on the other side, where I was looking at it in the sense of where I feel as a district and as a board member proud of the partnerships that we have developed through time. So that's why I gave the rating that I did, a higher rating.
And I'm wondering if because we will be doing this next year, someone else will be president, but we will be doing this self-evaluation. We might want to keep this evaluation in our file because there's certain questions that I think there might be an agreement that that they don't really pertain to our district, such as 57. Maybe, as Lisa explained, maybe 56 less so because it is the work that's being done by the district office. How does anyone feel about that?
I think it's a good idea to do a comparison from year to year, just so we can kind of see what areas we've improved in and where we need to, because every year it's going to be different, because every year is different.
Yeah, we might even want to look at last year on our own time.
Exactly.
I haven't looked at it, but now that we've discussed it, it would be good for all of us to revisit last year. Okay?
Kind of a reflection on this. I think I said this last year as well, that I was going to do it, but I didn't. Just looking at this, like at mid-year, it would be helpful, just because after when you take this in the summertime, you're trying to remember like an example of one of these, and I think if within this, if we did it maybe on our own or whatever, but just kept track of that just over time, it would be more helpful, because again, it's hard to, especially with this past year being as challenging as it was. You're trying to figure out why you're ranking it a certain way. So that's at least the trouble that I had with it.
That's a good point. I think that we have this on our governance calendar for a reason, but we could maybe revisit where it is on the governance calendar. That might be
Trustee Haug, I'm wondering if maybe we should do like we could possibly do like a mid-year and then end of the year, so that we can kind of see if we felt, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking.
I mean, I'm good with doing just one official one at the end of the year, but I'm just saying, me personally, as a board member, I'd like to, like you said, keep it on the radar at around the halfway point, so I can kind of jot down some notes and.
Or do it in
Yeah.
spring kind of
Do you
thing,
know,
so that we
do you know what we could
Right.
do? We could maybe, instead of retaking all this one, why don't we put it in for a review? Not a presentation, we review these questions mid-year this year, but it will be read only. And then we'll be able to talk about it if anyone has anything to say. How does that work? So it's not a lengthy agenda item.
okay, let me just understand. So you want to have us revisit this come January or so, February, and then just reflect on it and then come with some comments at that point?
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I'm good with anything. I'm good with anything. Do you have any preference on anything? on
No,
this?
no preference.
No.
Well, I think maybe I'll talk to Dr. Wilson and see if we can, we'll come up with some suggestions, and maybe we'll suggest it as a future agenda item if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think the support's there if you need to put it on there, but again, I don't think we need to belabor it.
Yeah,
It's just more of a
exactly,
reflection.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
for me,
Okay,
more personal, but like I said, I'm
okay,
not trying to do that
we
this year.
do have a lot of agenda items to get through today. And so I do apologize for the public that we were waiting this long to get to the very one. I'm really excited about the next agenda item is 10E, and it's approval of resolution 21-6. And I'd like to call on Dr. Mary Lou Wilson.
Yes, thank you. Last year, our Equity, Climate, and Culture Committee brought forward some recommendations to celebrate and honor a number of different ethnicities, races over the course of the year. And we are very excited to bring forward to you the recommendation and resolution to honor National Hispanic Heritage Month. That begins on September 15th. This is a way to honor the contributions made by Hispanic Americans. The theme this year is Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope. And I'm very pleased to share with you that already 6 days into the school year, a variety of activities have been planned by our principals and their teachers to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. All of our school sites are looking at an assembly with the Ballet Folklorico. Many of the classes across the different schools are focusing on Latino heritage in research, in studies, different aspects of their work. Hispanic authors may be at least one, maybe more of our schools. There will be some music playing during school lunchtime to celebrate the Heritage Month. There's some art projects that are scheduled, and at our high school, the Latino Student Union will be making a comeback, which we're thrilled to have bringing back with one of our new teachers. So lots is happening already during this time to celebrate and acknowledge many of our students who attend our schools. And with that information, Mr. Holguin, would you read the resolution for the community?
Sure. And I'd actually be honored to, just as a first-generation Mexican-American and a K through 12 St. Helena graduate, so I'm really proud to see this resolution come into action. St. Helena Unified School District Resolution 21-6, recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 2021. Whereas the United States commemorates the heritage and culture of all Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And whereas beginning on September 15th, 2021 and ending October 15th, 2021, the United States celebrates National Hispanic Heritage Month as enacted in Public Law 100-402 on August 17th, 1988. Whereas with this year's theme, Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope, invites us to celebrate Hispanic heritage and reflect on how great our tomorrow can be if we hold onto resilience and hope. And whereas Hispanic Americans have contributed significantly to the economic, cultural, and political development of St. Helena Unified Community, and whereas the student body of St. Helena Unified District is composed of 53% Hispanic American students, and whereas Hispanic American classified staff support and enrich all students' learning, and whereas Hispanic American teachers distinguish themselves as educators in the St. Helena Unified School District classrooms, and whereas Hispanic American administrators lead their schools with vision, and whereas Hispanic American school board members lead with distinction, and whereas all citizens will benefit from an accurate portrayal of Hispanic heritage and culture, and whereas research findings suggest that presenting Hispanic American culture, history, and perspective in the classroom promotes academic success for Hispanic American students. Now, therefore, it be resolved that St. Helena Unified School District Governing Board proclaims September 15th, 2021 through October 15th, 2021 Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourages schools, staff, and students to honor the historic contribution of Hispanics through the interactive classroom lesson plans, guest speakers, and cultural celebrations.
Thank you, Julio. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 21-6, Hispanic Heritage Month 2021, as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the Memorandum of Understanding between St. Helena Unified School District and Napa Valley Unified School District for AB 130 Independent Study for the 2021-2020 school year. That's agenda item 10F. I'd like to call on Dr. Mary Lou Wilson.
Yes, thank you. We are so pleased to partner with Napa Valley Unified School District this school year to offer an independent study program that is similar to the remote learning program that was in place last year for students who are impacted by the pandemic and do not feel that it is appropriate and or safe for them to be at school. In conversation with all of the school districts within the county, Dr. Musetti from Napa Valley Unified encouraged us to partner with her, as the program that they have in place is robust, it's rigorous, and it's been in place for a number of years. This allows our teachers and our district staff to focus on in-person attendance and allows a program that's running well already to serve the students. At this time, I believe we have seven students who have applied and have gone through the registration process, and they would have begun school yesterday. So again, great appreciation for Napa Valley Unified, and I encourage you to approve this MOU.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, comments or questions?
Just had the question about the commitment. Is that a one-year commitment or?
The bill requires that it be offered for the year, and it also allows students to make a choice at any time to return to in-person instruction. And if they do that, it's very rigorous. If we are notified that they want to return, we need to get them back into a classroom within 5 days.
And what about the reverse? Does the reverse also apply?
Ms. Allen, can you come to the microphone and respond to that question? Can a student leave our program and go into the independent study program at any time during this school year?
They cannot. So there's a timeline on it. So it's out there for public knowledge. That's why we did the survey. And then they have approximately 30 days to inform us. But I would say if they wait 30 days, we're already into the school year and school already started. So they'd be behind the ball already. So this notice went out in plenty of time for folks to go ahead and tell us that they would like to be an independent study.
Okay, thank you. And so the deadline is passed, just to clarify that.
I would say since they just started on Wednesday, yes. If they choose to do it, our survey's already out. We already have the numbers. So yes, I would say we're past that point.
Thank you. Any other trustee comments or questions? Is there a motion to approve the Memorandum of Understanding between St. Helena Unified and Napa Valley Unified for AB 130 Independent Study for the 2021-2022 school year as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. On to item 11, student learning and achievement. Item 11A, report on the 2021-2022 LCAP monthly presentations. I'd like to call on Mr. Christopher Heller.
Great. Excuse me. Good evening. The board and the community are aware of our newly approved 3-year LCAP local control accountability plan, and a hard copy is provided for you tonight. In addition to it being on the website, it's a nice quick reference guide for board members to have. And as you recall, this plan parallels the district goals with 4 areas of focus in achievement, equity, well-being, and engagement. And a key component of the LCAP is to share the progress in these particular areas. So district staff will present on various themes each month that pertain to an LCAP goal. Erica, if you just kind of scroll slowly through those so they could see it. In addition, site administration will be providing a localized perspective of the work that's occurring on their campuses in a particular area of interest. So in the fall, we're going to take a look at equity and inclusion at each site. And then in the spring, we start focusing a little bit more on some data trends that each principal is seeing in preparation for our community event, which drives the LCAP, and a combination of the data and the community engagement would allow us to bring forth the draft LCAP presentation in May and your approval in June. So this just provides a high level of what you can expect this year, what the community can expect in terms of reports. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, comments or questions?
I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. We look forward to the reports throughout the year.
Great, thank you.
Item 11B, consideration of approval for the revised 2021-2024 academic year calendars. I'd like to call on Mr. Christopher Heller.
Yes, last year we provided 3 academic calendars, 3 years of academic calendars for your approval. And in the past few months, this summer and such, we've noticed a few minor corrections and additions that need to be brought forward for clarity and consideration before the board considers reapproving. First is a correction in August with the sequencing of our staff development and teacher work days. Our practice has been to have the teachers come back on that Monday and have that as a teacher work day, and our staff development on a Tuesday, which has been our practice, but on the calendars it was noted inversely, that the staff development day was on Monday and the teacher work day is on Tuesday. So for clarity, we wanted to make that change right now so it's official on all 3 calendars. Secondly is a noted distinction between holidays and school recovery days. On the previous calendar, we listed the recovery days as holidays, which I think got confusing for people, even though it was noted down at the bottom. So we wanted to be a little more overt that in the event of a school closure where we are unable to conduct school in person and the school facilities are shut down, those school recovery days in dark gray, which are listed there, November 12th, April 15th, and 18th, would resume as normal school days. In the hopeful event we aren't in that situation, then those would be non-student days and thus a holiday for school year employees. Thirdly, we wanted to note that in spring break, just a notation which kind of tied to the school recovery day, that the classified observance of a Friday holiday was listed originally on one of those Fridays there in April the 15th, which is a recovery day, and we need to make sure that it follows the contract and is actually listed as April 8th for the observance. So classified employees would have April 8th as their holiday versus what was listed previously as April 15th, just in case it is a recovery day and we have school. And finally, just as a notation, even though it's outside of the school year, we wanted to note the 4th of July holiday and the newly established Juneteenth day for their observances. The main reason is just for summer school and family preparation to kind of get a sense of what day the district would be observing those particular holidays. So while they don't fall in the academic year, they do impact potential summer school and things of that nature. So we wanted to make sure to include that. So there's 4 somewhat minor but yet significant changes that we propose in each of those calendars, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions or clarifications?
No, Mr. Heller answered my questions in his presentation, actually, so.
Is-
I was wondering if there was some kind of emergency that caused the schools to be shut down for more than 3 days, what would be the plan after that? Would we add more days to the calendar, or would we just take those as a loss?
That's a good question. We have incorporated 3 days for that purpose, and at this time, any additional days would need to be negotiated with our bargaining groups.
Thank you.
And Ms. Stubbs, could you discuss the emergency waiver process in the event that we are not able to make up days?
So we would be able to apply for an emergency attendance waiver for anything short of 180 days. And that's a relatively easy process.
Okay, and is there any further questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the revised 2021-2024 academic calendars as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. So next item is item 11C, written report on the 2021 school SHUSD summer school programs. I would like to remind the board that this is a written report, but I would like to just call on Mary to just give us a few highlights, because there was a lot of really great work done.
Thank you. And I'm not going to take the credit for it. I'm going to give that to the teachers. After a very long, tiring, stressful year, I want to thank the teachers that volunteered to teach during summer school. I want to thank the para-ed educators that volunteered, the clerical staff that volunteered. We had community partnerships with Up Valley Family Center and Boys and Girls Club, and we had the food service. It was a wonderful summer school, and I just have to thank all the players, because everybody was tired and everybody stepped up for summer school. We served 193 students in our summer school program. It was a staggered program, so we went with when the teachers could teach, and they were 3 weeks at a time. So we started out with the elementary school, and then we had the primary school, and then RLS and the high school came at the end of the summer. So it was a staggered summer, but they had 3-week programs. Special ed was a 4-week program. So thanking everybody. I think the other big highlight that I wanted to put out there is that we intentionally focused on the whole child this summer, because we knew the impact of what the COVID pandemic was having on them. So we didn't want to drill and kill. We didn't want to just focus on academics. We really focused on making sure we dealt with their social emotional health, physical health, and then the academic health, and make academics fun this year. We really focused on making sure that you weren't coming in here for another 3 weeks and just be bogged down with a lot of papers and a lot of little worksheets. It really was a fun project-based learning environment. And again, I can't thank everybody enough. I really think for those 193 kids that came to summer school this summer, we changed their lives and their trajectory and really changed their engagement in the school setting. And so I can't thank people enough. It was a very successful summer.
I thank you, Mary. Is there any public comment? Trustees, comments, questions?
I was just going to comment that was evident in reading that report that you provided, was that I really got the sense that this wasn't just about like, come on, you got to learn your fractions or whatnot. It was about a place to kind of come back, focus on what maybe you needed to learn, but I got that total impression that this was about, we're here to just check in on you too. And so thank you to the staff, because that seems like it was successful.
Yeah, what I came away with was how important the outdoor activities, or PE, was for the students. It really was great to hear that, and how the teachers saw that the PE was so beneficial to the students. And I'm really glad that we're now able to return to PE after a year of having modified activities. We all know that physical activity is so important for our students. Any other comments, questions, Julio?
Just wanted to also say thank you to the staff and everyone involved, but particularly just the teacher reflections, I think, or the staff reflections. I think those help a bunch just to kind of oversee what the experience was like, and in addition to the photographs as well. I think that just sums up a lot of the hard work and dedication from our staff and our students as well. So.
And I want to just thank our community partners. We wouldn't have been as successful as we are if we didn't have the enrichment and the PE at the primary level with Boys and Girls Club, and then having Up Valley. And as you heard Zach and Jenny say, we are going to continue now having some Claro groups at the elementary school. So it really was a positive experience. So thank you.
Mary, how does 193 students compare to a pre-COVID school year?
Oh, that's a darn good question. But historically, at RLS, we can never get anybody.
Yeah.
And so we had 14.
Yeah, no, I know.
And that was great.
Okay.
And at our lower grades, we historically have about 12.
Okay, so
for
it's
the
right
primary
about line.
each grade level. So we're, we purposely wanted to give the kids that needed an extra boost that. So we would, if we just went on our numbers, if we had the numbers, we were going to put the staff there to make sure that every kid got what they needed.
It's really great. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you
the
very much.
presentation. And then now we're on to item 12A. It's approval for the consent to teach for the 2021-2022 school year. I would like to call on Mr. Christopher Heller.
Yes, these three resolutions are presented this evening for teachers who have an interest they have an interest in teaching outside of their credential area, and they have adequate background and experience and coursework to be permitted to be authorized with their consent. So these three presented tonight are for your consideration. Two of them are annual that we do in the leadership public speaking, and one has the adequate coursework to provide instruction in physical education.
Sorry, my microphone was off. Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, comments or questions? No. Just like to thank our teachers for being so versatile. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 21-3, 21-4, and 21-5 consents to teach as presented?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. On to item 13A. Approve a revised quote from Green Valley Tractor for the SHHS Agricultural Department. Ms. Sandy Stubbs.
Thank you. And this is just a revised quote for the tractor that the Ag Department purchased. The original quote had some discounts that they were not entitled to, so we have a revised quote for you.
Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions, comments?
No?
Is there a motion to approve the revised quote from Green Valley Tractor as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Review and consideration of approval of contracts over $25,000 for August 2021. I'd like to call on Ms. Andy Stubbs.
Thank you. And the first two contracts are renewals essentially related to special education. The first for some behavior consulting, the second with Lattice School for non-public school placement. And these are existing in the current budget that the board has approved. The third would be with Michael's Transportation, and they are increasing the rates by $10 an hour to retain drivers. And the board will see a revised transportation budget in the first interim report that comes to them in December. The next would be with West Ed for professional development, and this is simply a rollover of the amount for this year because we did not utilize these services during the 2021 school year because of the pandemic. And the final contract would be with Rosemary Appel, who provides us with services related to caring for our visually impaired students. And again, this comes out of our special ed budget, and it's included in the budget package that the board approved in June.
Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, comments, questions?
I have one clarifying question on the West Ed scope of work, first page. It talks about, it's like the third bullet down. It says 9 one-hour Zoom calls and then call per each of 9 principals. So I'm confused with who the 9 principals might be on that.
I believe that that includes, they meant to say that it includes executive cabinet
Okay,
and
that's
our
how I
director
feel. I just wanted to
also.
clarify.
Mhm,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the contracts over $25,000 as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts over 25,000.
Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay. And then on to item 13C, review and consider of approval of a 2021-2022 Memorandum of Understanding between St. Helena Preschool for All and SHUSD. I'd like to call on Ms. Sandy Stubbs.
Thank you, and I'm always pleased to work with Preschool for All. It's a great partnership that the district has with that organization. And so this would be a renewal of the MOU that we established in 2019. And there's just been some changes to some of the language describing the data that will be shared, the student data that will be shared with the consultant. Just some refinement to that language, updating it, and then, of course, date changes there. And so with that, I would recommend that the board approve this MOU.
Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Are there any comments from trustees or questions?
President Howe, I'm going to recuse myself just because I'm on the board of the Preschool for All. Thank you.
Yes,
And I'll be, recusing myself.
And so we do for the public, we do have 2 board members who are recusing themselves from this vote because they are affiliated with Preschool for All. And the rest of the board thanks you for your work you do for this great organization. So is there a motion to approve the 2021-2022 MOU between St. Helena Preschool for All and SHUSD as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. And then we have review and consideration of approval of 21-22 regarding a declaration of intent to provide preschool for all scholarship funding. Miss Sandy Stubbs again.
Thank you. And part of the MOU describes a new process whereby we take a close look at the finances of Preschool for All and making that determination of what the annual contribution would be towards supporting student scholarships, if any, each year. And so upon review of the financial information provided, I determined that it would be appropriate to sustain the contribution amount this year at $30,000. And so with that, I would recommend approval of the Preschool for All resolution for the year.
Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item?
President Howe, I'd like to make a public comment.
Oh, yes.
Do I need to state my name, or you guys know me, right? I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the district for this amazing partnership that we've had with the district. I know it's been ongoing since I've been the director, and it's just, I wanted to let the district know and just our community know how important this funding is for our program. It allows us to provide that experience for these kids to have a preschool experience, which is obviously super beneficial for them when they enter kindergarten. And I would say just an added a positive thing that we've been seeing in our program is just our parent engagement. We have a lot of Preschool for All parents that I personally see on either committees with the district or just in the community that are volunteering, and a lot of that comes from their participation in the program. So again, what we feel like we're helping build and prepare our students, and also working with our parents to just allow them to be more successful within the district. So we're very grateful for all the participation with Dr. Mary Lou and Andy and other staff members that have supported us. So thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Trustee Olguin. And then, again, there will be 2 board members recusing themselves, or I believe you have to state that I'll allow.
I will recuse myself because I'm the treasurer of the St. Helena Preschool.
And I'll recuse myself as well, the executive director.
Okay. Other board members, are there any comments or questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 21-2 regarding the declaration of intent to provide preschool scholarship funding as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, Macy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Aye.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. On to item 14A, future agenda items. We see the regular board meeting set up for September 16th, 2021.
It's full.
It's a full meeting. I do want to revisit, we were kind of talking about whether we needed to discuss again our board self-evaluation. Do we want this as a future agenda item of a board meeting in the future, or if this is the case, I would like board members to think about it and think about whether we really need to have another have it on the agenda later in the year.
Okay.
And maybe bring that request forward next month after we've had time to reflect, think, and talk to Dr. Wilson. Okay. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Is there any other agenda items to be added?
Not if I want people to still like me after 17.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. The meeting has ended at 8:17 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.